Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back to another episode. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the things about Mexico that no one out there is talking about. The things that no one warns you about. I mean, it's not all bad things or not all necessarily negative things. It's just things about life in Mexico that are just a reality of everyday life out here that a lot of people just don't talk about. And most likely you'll end up finding out when you move here. The first thing you're going to probably encounter right away when you get here is the fact that most Mexicans are very highly educated. Especially if you're able to speak Spanish, you're going to find out very quickly, oh wow, these guys are very educated. In fact, sometimes a lot smarter than you or the average person out there. And the reality is that, once you come out here, you really start finding out that they have a pretty good, if not really awesome, educational system. Or that, a lot of parents, a lot of people, take that very seriously. Also, the fact that it's really easily accessible out here. And I remember that, again, this is not everyone. Of course, you're going to find all kinds of people with all kinds of levels of education, but it really doesn't matter what the level of education. Most people they compensate with, other ways, whether it's street smarts or intelligence or very wisdomous with a lot of, just wise, thoughts on life or what have you. But most people are just, very intelligent. For the most part, they're taught to think for themselves. And, that is still like a thing out here where, a lot of people are encouraged to learn and learn a lot and then, make up their own minds and opinions. And it's still very highly valued out here. So you're going to find it very surprising. In fact, I'll tell you a quick little story. When I first moved out here and I was in one of my first taxis ever, I remember that back then I would talk about things like the financial system or Bitcoin or whatever, just random things. And I was just talking to like some random taxi driver, definitely someone that I never thought in a million years would understand me or even know what I was talking about, because I had just come from the United States where nobody understood me there when I was talking about these things. But yet a regular taxi driver with barely a high school education not only knew exactly what I was talking about, but we had a very, very deep conversation on the subject as I was getting a ride, to Parque Santa Ana. And I will never forget that, because that was like one of the first impressions of Mexico that I got. And I was pleasantly surprised. Sure, most people didn't want to talk about Bitcoin or, these subjects, but the fact that anyone, all right, out there for the most part could hold a conversation on such a deep topic as that, financials or, any other topic that you could think of was a very welcome surprise to me, especially, someone that likes to talk about these very deep subjects, no matter what it is, with anyone. And out here, not only are they very friendly and talkative and, they enjoy having a really good conversation, but they can hold a really good conversation about just any subject. So with about any level of education, like I've said many times before, yeah, it's a very, very welcome surprise. And I think you guys are also going to enjoy it. So again, one of the main reasons why I encourage you guys so much to learn Spanish and to know Spanish, because it's going to help you so much in being able to really enjoy things like this. Another thing that most people just don't know about is the fact that, laws, rules, regulations, all of these things out here in Mexico, they're more like a suggestion than an actual, enforced law or enforced thing. And that is a welcome surprise for a lot of people. It's also a very unwelcome surprise for many others. But for example, me, I came from Miami, Florida, and it's, Latin America down there. Basically, that's how we run Miami. I don't know how it is these days, but I remember when I grew up there, when I lived there, many years ago, that's how it was. It was like the wild, wild west, and was not for everybody. But the reality was that, most laws, most rules, most things like that, they were more a suggestion than an actual, thing that was enforced. And, I love that about Miami. And I remember when I moved and I lived in other parts of the USA, that all of a sudden there was, the whole thing of like rules and regulations and just how everyone was about that whole thing. I don't know what else to say. The reality is that that got me to really appreciate Miami and where I come from, and the fact that we, most of the time the rules are there, but they're more bendable than anything else. And again, it's not like a hard yes or a no for everything. So I remember when I first moved to Mexico and I started encountering this, and the longer I've been here and the more I encounter it, and now I realize it's just a way of life out here, I just love it. I love it so much. And so, a lot of times you guys have been with me for the ride as we've encountered these situations. But it's happening right now, whether it's my business, that I'm trying to, launch, whether it was the car that I had, that I have, and, me trying to just, get all the paperwork and registering it under my name legally. And I could go on and on. Not just that, but just the encounters that I have with authority, as I have told you before, and as a lot of people that eventually, you guys come out here to Mexico and you quickly realize how things work. And what do I mean? Well, again, you're living out here in Mexico, and let's say your neighbor is too noisy. You can't really complain to anybody except the neighbor, and you call the cops. They're not going to react. They're not going to care. It's not something that they can do anything about. Again, knock on wood that nothing bad happens, but let's just suppose that somebody breaks into your home. Well, guess what? Again, outside of you catching him red-handed and being able to demonstrate the fact that he actually did steal something, and there was a lot of bad intent. Sorry, my English not so good sometimes. But if you can prove all that, then yeah, the guy will probably get in trouble. Most likely, you can't prove any of that. And for example, let's say somebody breaks into your home and you're able to fight them off, capture them, call the cops, and the cops show up and they're like, okay, so what did they steal? I'm like, oh, they didn't steal anything. I was able to catch him just in time, and here, now take him away. And they're like, well, he really didn't commit a crime, so there's really nothing we can do. It's just more like catch and release. He might be able to, worst case scenario, spend the night in jail, and so on and so forth. And then you come to the realization that you have to come to an agreement with the police officer in some cases. Not every case. Some cops will do this, some cops won't. But, the whole idea of like, hey, we're probably just going to have to, make up the fact that you caught him red-handed when I got here, and just the whole thing. I don't know. Whatever the cop needs you to say on paper in order for them to get arrested and actually get in trouble. And I could go on and on. There's many things like that in which you quickly realize that, authority, police officer out here, all these other things, they only have as much power as you can give them. They only have as much power as the law really gives them, and so on and so forth. And you realize that, there's not really that many laws, rules, and regulations out here like you're probably used to. And again, that could be great for some people and horrible for others. And so the lack of rules and regulations and laws and all that stuff, I love that, because it means that, I don't know, the cops aren't bothering me every 5 minutes with every single little thing. Whereas in the US, you are already used to being harassed by the police officer every time you step out of your home. In fact, in many cases, you don't even have to step out of your home. They'll come to your own home and harass you there. And again, that doesn't happen out here. Ever. You cannot get harassed by anyone while you're walking the streets or anything like that. By the way, it happens. Of course it happens. But long story short, if you know your rights, and I've talked about this many times, and you know what to do, what to say, and how to handle yourself, there's nothing that they can do. In fact, if a police officer roughs you up, well, guess what? They're probably going to get in trouble. But if you don't know that they can get in trouble for acting a fool, well, guess what? You're going to let them do whatever, because you're thinking to yourself, oh, wait a minute, this is just like the US. I better comply, yada, yada, yada.
Arresting me for what? I'm not allowed to stand up for myself? I thought this was America. Huh? Isn't this America? I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
So again, when you come across a corrupt police officer, there's ways to deal with them. Basically, call them on their bluff. You call them on their bluff, and there's many ways to do that. There's videos on YouTube how to do this. I can go on and on. But long story short, it's about knowing your rights, knowing the language, and I can go on and on. You know all these things, you're never going to get in any kind of problems with the police or any kind of corrupt officer, because you'll be able to deal with it very easily. Because the minute that the police officer, the authority figure, knows that you know your rights, guess what? They leave you alone, because they are the ones that are breaking the law and doing something illegal. But if you don't know that they're breaking the law or doing something illegal, that's where they take advantage of you. Simple as that. All right. So that's really what it is, when it comes to all that. A lot of people, that's why they don't like Mexico, or they think it's anarchy, and they think it's, very dangerous and horrible and all these things out here. But the reality is that it's just another way of life, a way of life in which authority does not have this tyrannical power over you. And so for a lot of people, they don't know how to live like that. But for people like me, people like you that love freedom, this is a major, major welcome, where you quickly realize, oh, wait a minute, I have rights out here. I still have the ability to live my life freely without being bothered or pestered. Now, of course, it can happen. Things can happen. Nothing is perfect. We're not living in utopia. This is not, paradise, in every sense of the word. Things happen. But again, the more you know, the more you educate yourself, the more you arm yourself with the knowledge, the right knowledge, and things like Spanish, and I can go on and on, this is a non-issue. It's already a non-issue for most people, but it's definitely a non-issue. I have been harassed many times by police officers. There's people out there that, again, other YouTubers and stuff like that have also been harassed by police officers, and they can take care of it like that. Because, again, you call them on the bluff, nothing to worry about. Okay? So, remember, you have nothing to worry about as long as you know your rights and you know how to defend yourself with your brain.
Bruh.
Another thing about Mexico is the fact that it is cash only for the most part. Now, I've talked about this topic many times, and in fact, I've gotten a lot of Mexicans that have even gotten upset with me because, again, I get it. They're young, they're modern, they use their credit cards or their debit cards or, their electronic payment system, more than cash because it's a cool, hip thing to do. But long story short, most young people, most old people, most everybody, cash only. Okay? Cash only. Of course, we're living in a very modern Mexico. We're living in, we're not living in a third world country out here, despite what, they tell you out there in the news or on TV or whatever. But the reality is that in order for us to be a first world country, well, guess what? They got to have some sort of electronic payment system and a really good, robust electronic system of payments and all that stuff. So, yeah, they have it out here, but the reality is that the majority of Mexicans prefer cash only. And we're going to get into that real quick on this, episode. But, good like 70 to 80% of Mexicans transact in cash. Straight up. Everything. For everything they do. I mean, even when you're going to go to the government office, okay, to pay for your temporary residency or whatever it is you're paying for, your registration on the car, cash. That's right. Of course you can pay card, but there's a fee and a charge and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, it's cash. They prefer cash. All right. And just about every situation. And in many cases, you'll go to a department store and they'll have two prices, one for credit debit and another one for cash. And the cash is always going to be cheaper. Every single transaction that you do in cash, always going to be cheaper and preferable. And I can go on and on. So cash is king out here in Mexico. Now, why is it that cash is king in Mexico? Well, for a lot of people, you don't know that in Mexico in the 90s, in the 1990s, so about 30 years ago, they had a ginormous economic problem, an economic depression, where basically the peso went to crap. All right. And because of that, well, guess what? A lot of Mexicans that were around that time, which, they're still around today, they learned from that whole deal. Now, I'm not going to get in on it on this, video. I've talked about it many times on this channel, on my former channel. I've talked about this many times. We're right now dealing with a major economic horrible situation in the world, and most people are not even aware, and the ones that are aware know nothing of the subject. And a lot of you guys, believe it or not, do know. You guys know a lot about the subject. So long story short, Mexico went through a bad moment in economic history back in the 90s, a very dark moment. And so back then, a lot of people lost their money. A lot of people, lost everything just because they trusted the banks too much, trusted the government too much, so on and so forth. So because of that, they learned. And most Mexicans these days, they don't trust the banks. They still don't trust the government. They don't trust the system. They don't trust any of it at all. They don't trust credit. They don't want to get in debt. They don't want any of that. In fact, what they do is that they believe in things like silver. And if anyone knows anything about the Spanish Empire and about Mexico and about the silver and gold and all that stuff, you should know that, the Spanish Empire once upon a time, I know it's you can't really see it, but anyways, Spanish Empire once upon a time was built on the Mexican silver. And most Mexicans know monetary history, monetary information, knowledge, all this stuff. So because of that, they're not dumb enough to fall for it again. And most Mexicans, no matter what their income level, they usually cash out their checks, okay? And they have a safe at home, and they got, their gold, their silver, their cash, whatever. Okay, because they prefer to be their own bank. They prefer to, again, be in charge of their own finances and savings and all this other stuff. So most Mexicans are actually financially literate, and they know what's going on. And so right now in this moment in time, this is a major reason why the Mexican peso not only is so strong, but it's going to continue getting stronger, because it's a lot of factors, so many factors that we've covered on this channel already many times. But the reality is that, the people, they also got to be in on it. And most people, guess what? They hold a lot of silver coins, they hold a lot of gold, okay? They hold a lot of cash. And I'm talking about even the poorest of the poor have some, more than the average American or Canadian that doesn't even know the value of these things, and probably only thinks of these things as jewelry, all right? Or what have you. So the people of Mexico are very, very, very smart when it comes to, the topic of economics, and, when it comes to money, the bank, gold, silver, true value of all this stuff, the fact that paper money is not valuable, and I can go on and on. I don't need to harp on this, all right? There's other channels that are dedicated to talking about these things, and I think most people these days are now starting to become financially literate for the first time ever, and starting to figure out how and what's really going on out there. So with that being said, let's move on to the next thing, which is Mexico is the 16th richest country in the world. That's right. It's a 16th richest country in the world. All right. So what does that mean? Well, again, everything I just told you. You know what I mean? The reason that they're so rich is because a lot of the population, a good majority of the population, like 80% or more of the population, is educated financially. Because either they or their parents, but at some point in their lifetime, even Christian is, think about this. Christian is 32 years old. Sorry, honey, I'm putting you out there. Anyway, she's 32 years old, okay? Guess what? She was born in the middle of all this, okay? So she knows. I remember one of the main reasons, we fell in love and we started, like when we started talking and hitting it off, was the fact that, her parents, her family have a background when it comes, to buying gold and silver, because back in the day, back in the 90s, when things were, again, they were having the economic crisis, that's how, her family was able to stay afloat, because they owned, gold and silver shops and pawn shops and all this other stuff. Again, not rich or anything, but they were able to survive because, again, they were able to, trade this and know the value of things like gold and silver. So guess what? She was already very well educated on the subject. And again, not just her, a lot of people were. So, the reality is that there's many, many reasons why Mexico is the 16th richest country in the world at the moment of the recording of this episode. It's not just because of the financial education that everybody has, the fact that everybody holds gold and silver. You can buy gold and silver at the bank, again, as a Mexican citizen. Not you. Anyone out there that's watching this that is on a permanent, temporary visa, none of that stuff, you cannot buy it anymore. All right? You used to be able to buy it at the bank. Not anymore. Only citizens. So for obvious reasons, all right? But anyways, citizens out here are able to buy these things at the bank. They understand, that the bank is really just there to help facilitate certain transactions and certain things, but they really don't hold any value in the sense of like, I'm going to put all my money there. All right. In fact, the banks out here have to beg the population to put their money in the bank. Still not working. All right. So the reason that, Mexico's the 16th richest country is not only everything that I just said right there, but also the fact that Mexico is rich in resources. And, they have things like oil, lithium, silver, gold, and I think so many other natural resources. A population that is extremely young. Again, the average age in Mexico, somewhere like in the 28, 29, 30, 30 something. So in that age range, that golden age range, okay? They're all having kids. They're all, the whole population is booming, growing. They're all working and they're all stimulating the economy. All the foreign investment come to Mexico. I mean, I could go on and on and on. Okay, and as the rest of the world is falling in shambles, well, guess what? Mexico is becoming the manufacturing hub of the world, taking over China's spot, and they're, again, all the resources, the strength of not just the peso and the monetary system out here, but again, even if the whole system, were to just, collapse tomorrow, the typical Mexican is going to be fine, where a lot of you guys are not, and so I could go on and on, but they're rich, okay? And a lot of them don't even realize they're rich, all right? So imagine as this continues to progress, all right? So that's a major thing that most people don't know. And even if they know that Mexico is rich, they really don't wrap their head around how rich Mexico actually is. Another thing about Mexico that a lot of people just cannot wrap their heads around, and even me, it took a while to get used to, is the slow pace of life. Like, seriously, the slow pace of life out here is not for everybody. Now, I happen to move to one of the slowest places in Mexico, and I'm happy. And again, for anyone that knows me and watches my videos, you guys know I'm one of the fastest people out there. I'm go, my brain, the whole thing. Okay. Bruh. I don't stop. I'm Cuban and American, and I love coffee. I'll leave it there. All right. So with that being said, it was even more of an adjustment for me than other people. All right. Trust me, I got friends of mine that are slowpokes McGee's, and they fit in perfectly out here. But for me, it was a major change that I thought I was never going to get used to. And like I said, I moved to one of the slowest, if not the slowest part of all of Mexico, which is the Yucatan. I live out here in the Yucatan, in the jungle. Anyways, long story short, I definitely got used to it, and I love the way of life out here. Again, it's not for everybody, but at least for me, I used to suffer from a lot of stress. I used to suffer from a lot of anxiety. I used to suffer from all these things that, again, a typical American suffers from. But ever since I've been here, that has gradually gotten better and better and better, to the point where, I most of the time I'm able to get to calm and collected very quickly. I'm able to, most of the time I'm relaxed. I love the fact that now I can just turn it on whenever I want, pop it into fifth gear whenever I want, instead of having to be revved, having the motor revved at full blast all the time, be in fifth gear all the time, and never being able to rest, chill out, smell the flowers, live life. Out here, you're forced. And the thing is, it's kind of ironic because Mexico, again, is the hardest working nation on earth, all right, or one of the hardest working people on earth. And yet everything is slow, chill, calm and collected for the most part. People out here, they love to live life, party, have fun, enjoy. So the thing is that, they might work 12 hours a day, for months straight, days straight, that's nonstop, but then they'll go on ahead and just take a 2-week vacation. For example, you might, go to the taco stand. It's always open, 13 hours a day, constantly going, never takes a day off. And then one day you're going to go get tacos and the guy's closed and he has a sign that says, "I'm gone to the beach for 2 weeks." Bruh. And just things like that. And, so you're going to find it in every level. You're going to find a lot of, again, Mexico is also very go. They work hard, especially if you go to places like Mexico City, Monterrey, Guadalajara, whatever. You're going to see, it's young people working, trying to make it happen. So you're going to see that lifestyle, but you're also going to see people, like literally it's part of life. You have to take a break. You have to go on vacation. You have to spend time with the family. Literally, you do have to spend time with the family. That's like a very thing. It's like you're looked down upon if you cannot make time or spend time with the family and things like that. So, the whole idea of, working hard and sacrifice and building and growing is, all part of Mexico, but it's also the fact that you need to slow down, you know what I mean? And so again, it's not for everybody. Some people come out here and they just do not have the ability or the desire to want to slow down, and it drives them crazy. Look, for me, yeah, I've liked the whole transition and being able to slow down and relax, But I also like the fact that I can live my go life, continuously produce videos, work on many projects, and just work like an animal. And it's not really looked down upon. It's only looked down upon if I don't go to the family gathering on Sunday night or Friday, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, as long as I make time for the family, as long as I make time to play with Gizmo, as long as I make time to hang out with the wife, as long as I make time and I make sure I have a healthy or semi-healthy life-work balance, we're good. It's totally fine. And so that's, a major contributor to why I love it out here so much, is the fact that, out here you can live at your own pace. You can be the slowest of slow people on earth. And again, like the whole story goes where, hey, the whole Mexican fisherman that just goes out there every single day to get enough fish for the day, to eat for him and his family that day, and that's it. As opposed to going out there and fishing for, a large amount, trying to sell that amount, work in order to what? You know what I mean? Save up a lot of money, build up a lot to what? Retire and live the same exact life you're living now. So I know I'm butchering the story, but I think a lot of you guys kind of get it. The idea is that you out here, if all you want to do is work enough to pay your daily bills, you can do that. And if you want to work as hard as humanly possible and be the next Bezos or be the next whatever it is, Elon Musk or whoever the rich guy is these days, you can do it as well. You can definitely do it out here. And especially more and more these days as opportunity keeps growing and the economy keeps growing, and Mexico is going to become a major power when it comes to those aspects. And you're going to be able to take advantage of that no matter who you are, assuming you want to. Another thing about Mexico that nobody talks about that piggybacks off this thing that I was just talking about now is the fact that, again, not only are things a slower pace and just a different kind of lifestyle out here, but on top of that, people out here do not sweat the small stuff for the most part. Of course, you're going to see people get mad, get in a fight. You're going to see people, road rage in major, bigger cities. You're going to see all these things. It's just, the way of life. And as things grow and develop, they're going to probably happen a little more and more every day. But the reality is, just because of the way the culture is and other things are out here, people just don't sweat the small stuff. And they like it that way. Most of the Mexicans out here, most people that live out here don't sweat the small stuff. And so that's why a lot of times, you think that they're making fun of you. They're not. They're just laughing. They want you to laugh. If you take everything too seriously, they're probably not going to like you. If you laugh at the jokes they make about you, you laugh at the jokes that you're making about them, you're constantly just working and playing and having fun with each other, again, like most humans should be doing, really like socializing, then you'll be fine. They really tend to not really care about most things that in your part of the world and wherever you're coming from, you're probably going to freak out about, most people that are coming from the USA, Canada, the first world, you freak out about anything, and you see Karens everywhere, and things are just on high alert all the time. You're just walking down the street and somebody bumps into you, and that could turn into a fight. Where out here you're walking down the street, you bump into somebody, like, oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. Oh, that's it. In fact, I've seen many cases of videos in Mexico of road rage situations, and basically, somebody cuts somebody off, and then you see the guy coming after him. Hey, what'd you do? And then immediately the guy that did the cutting off was like, oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. And he goes, oh, no, don't worry about it. You just and then they basically kind of like hug it out many times. Okay, so the reality is that, yeah, Mexico is, don't be getting it twisted. Remember, some of the best boxers in the world are Mexican. They love to fight out here. They definitely fight, and they definitely get in on it. But for the most part, most people, they just don't sweat the small stuff. They're not going to be picking a fight or angry, about life on a constant basis, where they're just going to want to pick a fight with everyone on the street or anyone that they encounter. And they're not going to be out there, groveling and miserable and, all this other stuff like a lot of people from the USA or even Canada or whatever, at least the USA, that's all I can speak for. That's where I'm from. Do, because in the USA, you already know, a lot of times you gotta be careful with, what you think or say, because anyone could just blow up at any moment for anything. And, You don't have to worry about that here. It's very rare. And if it happens, it is such a rarity that for the most part, everyone's just going to get a laugh out of the situation. And that's about it. But the reality is that that is a non-issue for the most part out here, because most people, they don't sweat the small stuff. Like, again, let's say that you're driving your car and you have some sort of issue and, you're kind of stranded on the side of the road. Well, guess what? You know what I mean? Like, people are probably going to help you out. And they're not expecting you to pay them or anything. They're just going to help you out. And they're probably busy, and they probably don't have the time to help you out, but they're going to help you out because they don't sweat the small stuff, you know what I mean? And then they'll be late to their family function or wherever they're going to, and they'll be like, oh, yes, I had to help some guy on the side of the road, fix a tire or, get a tow or move this or whatever. Or in my case, you know the beast, the one that you're watching right now. Sometimes, you know what I mean? It's left me kind of stranded in the middle of a neighborhood, and I've had to just push the truck to the side of the road, park it in front of somebody's house, and talk to the owner of that house or the neighborhood or the neighbors. Hey, can I leave my car here parked until I can get it fixed, and things like that. And so, where in the USA you do that, they're already calling the cops, they're already calling the tow truck, they don't give a crap what your situation is. We're out here, it's like, yeah, I'm probably inconveniencing the guy because I took his parking spot and I'm probably going to be there for a whole week. But at the same time, he's just thinking to himself, well, I mean, the poor guy, I don't want to make his situation worse. I can take the hit. I can, park somewhere else for a few days until this guy fixes his thing. And I don't even know who this guy is, but I'm just paying it forward or whatever it is they're doing. But just the kindness. These are the things that when a lot of people come to Mexico, they're like, wow, people are so kind and so nice out here. The thing, I mean, in a lot of parts of the world, they're like that. But when you come from like the US, again, the first world, and you're just not used to that. You're not used to just people being nice to be nice. You're just not used to all of this kindness. You're not used to this. You automatically are, in shock. And, many times, you like I was at first, I was thinking to myself, okay, why are they being so nice? Where are they trying to take advantage of me? Why are they doing this? What's going on here? All these second guessing of the situation. When the reality was that they were just literally being nice and helpful, and that's it. Whether they're extremely religious or they were taught correctly at home in their families, it doesn't matter. They're nice, and they really are. It really is a surprise to a lot of people that are just not used to that, which is a lot of people, unfortunately. So, it is what it is. So again, you know what I mean? It's not a bad thing. It's just, something that it's a really good thing, in fact, but it is something that is a real thing. And that a lot of people, one shape or another, they have to figure it out, and they have to find a way to deal with this because, for most people, they eventually get to the point where they start to not sweat the small stuff. They start to go with the flow. They start relaxing naturally and so on and so forth. So for most people, it's really easy for them to just fall into this. But there's a lot of people that never fall into this, and they become extremely overly frustrated with life out here in Mexico. And it is one of the reasons why a lot of people end up going back home, because they just cannot get used to this major aspect of life out here in Mexico, which is not just a slow pace of life and how life, is more important than work. But the fact that, again, people just don't sweat the small stuff in every aspect. Again, like I said, even when it comes to authority, when it comes to, so many aspects of life out here in Mexico. And again, for some people, not only is it a welcome change, but one of the main reasons why you love it out here so much and never want to leave. Another pleasant surprise out here is the dating culture. Now, again, I had no idea about anything pertaining to this until I moved out here and I started dating. In fact, it was so good, I got married. I'm 42 years old and I have never been married. I did get married a few years ago, but yeah, I was like basically turning 40. I was 39 years old. 39 years old, I think. Yeah, when I got married, and it was nowhere on my radar. But yet the dating out here is so good. Everything is so good when it comes to that. I got married, and I'm very happily married. I never thought in a million years I would be happily married, and yet here I am. Of course, it's not perfect. There's bumps in the road, just like every other relationship. But my God, the best relationship I've ever had in my life has been with Christian. Again, my wife, the person I married. But again, not to, knock that or not, let's not forget, I was dating out here. Like a lot of people come out here and date, especially if you're younger. But I was dating out here before that, and it was pleasant for the most part. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, of course, you know, there's always going to be good and bad, but for the most part, my dating experience out here compared to the USA was amazing. And that's what a lot of people out there realize very quickly when you come out here, that the dating scene, again, it doesn't matter if you're male, female, whatever you are out there, the dating scene in Mexico is amazing. And again, the older you are, the more you realize, oh, wait a minute, this is how it used to be back in the day. This is how dating used to be back when, you know, I grew up, and so on and so forth. Because again, I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and, you know, back then dating was still regular dating, and, you know, just how it was since the beginning of time. And, yeah, you know what I mean? This is basically a lot of it how it is now. Yeah, of course, you know, they're going to have things like Tinder and Bumble, and I don't know what else is out there. Because again, I talk to friends and they tell me, you know, what they use and what they're doing out here. But long story short, yeah, you don't have to use apps. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't use apps, and most people out there, again, you know, they pair up very quickly without the use of an app or the use of anything. In fact, sometimes just being at the right place at the right time can get you with the right match. So the reality is that the dating scene out here is a major component. Again, I never came out here looking for a wife or a girlfriend or dating or any of that. You know, to tell you the truth, you know, I was already kind of done with all that. You know, I had gone through my own issues. And, you know, long story short, I was pleasantly surprised, you know, by how things are out here, to the point where, again, not only did I get married, but I am very happily married. And I can honestly say that. And a lot of guys and a lot of gals out there that have come out here and found their partner can say that as well. You know, they're very happy with their partner, male or female. And that is a major thing that a lot of people just don't talk about. I talk about this more in depth. I have other videos where I talk about this more in depth, and I cover this from time to time. But it's, again, one of the things that a lot of people just don't talk about. All right, guys, I think we've made a long enough video here, and I think I've covered a lot of topics. Again, so many more topics, so many more things that nobody talks about, that we can continue making this video a lot longer than what it is already. But you already know this video is already long enough, and I'm trying to make them at least this length or shorter. So with that being said, I think we should wrap this up. So before we wrap this up, I want to give a big thanks to all my patrons out there, all my members out there. You know, every single one of you guys that has sent me, you know, a few bucks, you know, bought me a coffee, supported the show in any way possible, donated to the show, has helped, you know, with the questions, you know, has helped, you know, just basically sometimes just leaving a comment or a thumbs up or sharing the video. Thank you. Shout out to everyone out there. I love all of you guys. You know, seriously, I mean, wow, you know, how crazy. Look at all the growth that we have been having in the last, you know, few days, few weeks, and so on and so forth. It's, wow. You know, I'm beyond words, but you already know. It doesn't mean that we're going to rest on our laurels. We still got a lot of work to do. We still have a lot of videos to make. We still have a lot of things to show you. So we're going to be doing them here on this channel. So if you like this kind of content and you want to see more, you already know what to do, all right? Don't forget to please like, please subscribe, please share, please hit that bell icon. But more importantly than anything else, please stay awesome. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye, guys.